Tuesday, 16th of April. Call this meeting to order. Oh, I know he's here. So we need him here physically present, do we? Okay. Even though we know he's in the building, huh? He can't
Can't answer the roll.
use a ventriloquist to say here, huh? Oops. Okay. Do this later. I'm going to begin with a roll call. Director Doherty is out of the state on family business. Director Donna McAleer.
Here.
Director Bob Lux is here. Director Dale Walker is here, and we still have a vacant seat, but this allows us a quorum. We have a quorum and an agenda, so we can have a meeting. We'll have the opening invocation and pledges of allegiance. Heavenly Father, we come to you today as an assembled body. We humbly request that you bless our meeting, our community, and our nation. Help us to work diligently, always for the common good and in the best interest of those we have been elected to represent. Guide us to be insightful and prudent in our intentions, visions, plans, deliberations, decisions, and their fulfillment. Work through us to provide a spirit of welcome to all who are in attendance and to engage in respectful and thoughtful dialogue and discussion with understanding, wisdom, and humility. Amen.
Amen.
If you wish, prior to reciting the pledges of allegiance, please take an additional moment of silent prayer or reflection in the manner of your preference. Thank you. Pledge of allegiance to the United States flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pledge to the Texas flag.
Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Good. Do we have any comments from the public today, Shelley? Thank you. Okay. Do we have any requests for adjustments for relief from specific charges imposed by the districts? Thank you, Jeannie. We are going to have something a little bit different with our consent agenda today. Jeannie Scott needs to inform us of some activities that are requiring attention on the with MCAD. I believe it's with MCAD, yes? Where are we, Jeannie, on the, is that page 17 or is it from 16? 15 through 17?
Yeah, your preliminary.
Oh, there you go.
Opinion, for the new year for 2024. To start with, the appraisal district is on there, has transferred over to the new software. And we are not balancing back even 5 years. So these totals don't read too much into because.
When you say these totals, which are you speaking? The ones on 16, 17? No. 16, I believe. Yeah.
Y'all, it shows that you're in a little over 12%. To start your 2024, these are estimated totals. The software is not accurate. There's too many errors in there. Also, Senate Bill 2, the circuit breaker went into effect, which is not going to affect y'all a whole bunch. It's for commercial properties, or if you have rental property, it's on real property only. It kind of hit Metro more than anybody, but it's a credit. And it's up to 20%, and it's a 3-year pilot program that's from 24 to 26, and then we'll see what happens in 26. So if you have rental property or if it's a business out there, you get 20% if you've owned it for a year credit on your tax bill. So I just wanted to let you know
Okay.
what's going on with it.
So,
They'll be sending totals to us. We'll see how close they are.
but
I don't
really,
trust
there's
you.
no modification to the information that you've submitted here. This was an explanation. Okay, so
Yeah.
the review and approval of the consent agenda, Brian, is this correct? Would go without any need for any modification. Okay, thank you, Jeannie. Thank you, Brian. Okay, we now have review and discussion of the consent agenda, items 5 through 10. I propose a motion to accept the consent agenda as submitted. Entertain a second.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion on this matter? Any questions, Donna?
I'm not used to seeing number 10. Has that always been on our consent agenda? Okay,
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, we are now down to the agenda item agenda. I suggest that this be removed from future agendas as it's served its purpose. Any further discussion or need to discuss that in any greater depth? There will be a new board seated next month, as we know. Brings us to agenda item number 12. Receive the regular monthly SJRA Woodlands Division report, including updates on operations, project, and public outreach. Pages 19 through 40 of our meeting packet. Mr. Meeks, Mr. Shackelford?
I have nothing to add to the report. It's pretty normal month, no violations, nothing really out of the ordinary. But Dan does have an introduction he'd like to do.
Very good. Mr. Hildebrand?
So just want to take a quick minute to introduce a new face in the crowd. So this is Justin Sant. He's a new project manager with the River Authority, working in our technical services department. So he'll be engaged in a lot of the Woodlands projects, some of the larger programs, including the AC Waterline Condition-Based Assessment Program, and also the project associated with the wastewater treatment facility. So he'll be becoming a more familiar face to this group and the MUD. So just wanted to welcome him to the group.
Thank you, Dan. And Justin, this board welcomes you as well. Nice to have you with us. Any additions to that? I mean, there's nothing.
There's nothing out of the ordinary. I can answer a question I heard at the trustees meeting about the water loss, just to kind of walk through that, because Bob, I know you have some questions. So if you go to page 20 and then 21, at the very bottom of the monthly accounted for water loss, there's a water leak that says Woodlands Water Agency 6-inch fire hydrant lead broke. That is the same project as on page 21 at the top of the infrastructure maintenance 12-inch AC water line. It gets a little confusing because we had a leak there for about 2 to 3 weeks. There was construction in the area, so we couldn't get to it. It's just a little small leak, just made a big puddle. And so we thought it was our line, so we went ahead and dug it up, and it was actually an AC lead going into a fire hydrant. And so that's just the 6-inch pipe that goes from our line to the fire hydrant. Fire hydrants are typically the mud-related ones. So when we were in there looking at it, we noticed that it was AC pipe, and it was literally like 10-foot previous repair. As you know, with AC pipe, as you go in there, you kind of mess with it, it starts to splinter, break, and move stuff. So we said, okay, while we're fixing the leak, we're gonna go ahead and remove these, push on valves, push on T's at the same time. So we did a whole lot of work in the area, but a small part of it was, the fire hydrant and the lead itself. Those two are the same project. The 28th is when we started, the 31st is when we completed the project.
Excellent. Thank you. Did you replace that with iron pipe, PVC
Yeah,
pipe,
that's what I was gonna ask.
PVC.
PVC? Did it require restraining, glands or something like that?
It did, and the interesting part that we did not know, and of course, you don't know this till you dig this up, is y'all may recall on Six Pines, we said there's foreign AC pipe.
Yeah.
So you have standard and what I'm calling standard and foreign. And so Harper's Landing, that section, the previous repair was a standard AC pipe, but that area was the foreign AC pipe. And so there's not couplings that just come off the shelf ready to go on there. So we had to make stuff work to basically get the gland packs, the mega packs and everything work to secure everything in.
Good job.
Yeah, they did it all
Promptly. You were only out for that brief period of time. That's great work by the team. That's very good. Thank you for that clarification.
Question.
Yes, sir.
I noticed that you did some work on the wells. It's on page 22. And it talks about wells 5, 11, 22, 26, and 32. And down for rehabilitation, is that sort of like a clean out, or are you changing the depths of the perforations, or I'm really intrigued. So this is routine maintenance on the wells?
I'm trying to see if there's more information. 28 and 29 share some of the same, share the same projects. I'll get rid of.
Am I on the wrong page?
What,
No, you're good. We put it in two locations because
did?
that's, in this well rehab, we're cleaning the casing, rehabbing the motor, could be replacing the motor in some cases. I think these are just rehabs.
Checking the electrical and
Checking the electrical, replacing just any of the wear components, the airline, the pump will be replaced.
cleaning out the perfs.
You got it.
Yeah, this is kind of like your routine maintenance that you schedule X number of months just to make sure.
Well, this is every 12 years.
Oh,
10 to 12 years is when we look at it. Besides that, it's just oil changes and stuff, but it's not every 12 years we look at this big rehab.
Wow, okay.
Now, if it's the Jasper aquifers being 5, 11, that's it. 5 and 11 are Jasper. We do evaluate those to see if they need to be lower.
Lower, yeah.
But I don't recall.
I never lowered it.
So you do it based off of like the volumes that you're getting off of that reservoir. And if it's starting to decrease to a point where it affects the motor, then you'll consider lowering it, right?
That as well as we do well surveys twice a year as well as USGS, and we look at where the actual static water level is and the pumping water level.
And relative to where the pump is to
Yeah.
the water level.
And
Okay.
so we keep 50-foot minimum. So if it's right
Good.
around 50 or if it's below 50, then it's automatically dropped. However, not as far as we can go down, but it is dropped.
And then your timing's good because we're going to be going into the summer and you might need to pull on them a little bit harder depending on our weather.
Right.
Okay. I was really intrigued by that. That's thank you for that clarification.
Thank you for the question. Any other further questions? I guess we can then move onward to agenda item 14. 13. Discuss potential funding alternatives related to SJRA Woodlands Division proposed infrastructure projects. Is that Mr. Shackelford?
That was the alternatives that were presented last month. We
Right.
kept the agenda item on the agenda,
like when you tax or at a fee and
right? The four options.
the
that
four
were presented.
options? Mhm.
So no actions today necessarily, just wanted to keep it on the agenda if there were any questions. I received a handful of comments and questions from directors across the MUDs. Nothing earth shattering that would change anything. So you've had a month to kind of dig into it a little bit. So we thought we'd keep it on the agenda.
Good.
We'll need to come to a decision at some point, but today's probably not the day.
Okay. Questions from board members regarding that? Okay, we can move to agenda item 14. I guess before we go, I want to ask a question. Is it appropriate now, as we're under SJRA matters, for you to give an update on legal, or would you prefer to do that in the attorney's report? Some of the legal decisions that have been rendered and then that remain to be rendered.
So I was going to cover the Texas Supreme Court decision of the attorney's report, and then we've got a separate item on the GRP surplus refund.
Excellent.
Somewhat
Excellent.
related.
Excellent. Thank you. We'll take care of that at the appropriate time, which is in the attorney's report. Okay, we're through agenda item 14. I guess we're going to 15, right? No, 14.
Yeah, you're right.
Consider an act on the supplemental agreement with SJRA for engineering of wastewater reclamation facility number 2.
Should be.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Oh,
Change it to 1.
Yes.
Big change.
Yeah.
Make sure that's in our meeting notes.
Who's going to conduct that decision, that discussion, Eric? Manager Peterson?
Sure. So SJ had requested earlier this year to put the supplemental agreement before you. I put it on hold before we could look at the funding options. So I felt like that was important for us to look at the big picture before getting into that. This would be for funding the engineering for the wastewater treatment plant. And so my understanding is the amount would be, bonds would be 40 million. It would include 2 years of capital, cap I. And so that was the request for you. So we put it on the agenda.
We weren't provided a copy of the supplemental agreement?
It
We
was
are?
provided back in January. I think it's been in the Google Drive.
Okay.
It's the same version that was approved in 2017. Or on projects at that point.
Okay, so it isn't project specific, it was a general.
It's bond specific.
Okay.
Correct. It's project specific. It's in the same format as the 2017 supplemental agreement for that bond issue, because as a reminder, the original agreements between the River Authority and did not provide for bond financing of rehab and repair. Just dealt with bond financing of new capacity, but not for rehabilitation, repair, replacement of existing capacity. And so we first crossed that bridge back in 2017 and worked out a form supplemental agreement that would address the parameters for the bond issue. And we've used that same form for this first tranche for the wastewater treatment plant. We have noted in other meetings, note for this one as well, the supplemental agreement being for the new facility, you're making that first decision of moving forward with a new plant as opposed to doing piecemeal repairs to the existing plant. And so, that you've got to be able to make that decision first to go down the path of a new plant as opposed to the other before you would want to do the supplemental agreement. So just want to make sure that, before this board or any of the boards takes action on that you're clear that you want to move forward with the first step of the new plan. Of course, there'll be multiple tranches and more analysis and cost estimates and all that stuff. But to get the process started, that's what the purpose of this supplemental agreement is.
So it's a transition between keeping the existing wastewater treatment plant and fixing it, or
Correct.
moving on and building a new facility.
Correct.
That would-
Starting the first step of that process, yes.
So
Because
it would modify the agreement.
correct, the existing agreement. And
It hasn't been, okay, and it hasn't been done yet. Okay.
correct. And there have been questions about, well, what's the new plant going to cost? There's a fairly wide range in the estimate. And what the River Authority has said is, well, until we do the design and the engineering, we can't tighten up that band of estimate to give you a more, tighter range, target range of what the plant's going to cost until we do the additional engineering. So I think that's part of the purpose of this first tranche is to be able to narrow that target range of what the estimate of the plant's going to cost.
In order to engage in discussion, I'm going to make a motion that we approve that is the action on the supplemental agreement. So I have a motion. Is there a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Now we can have discussion on this matter. If I remember correctly, from my perspective, correct me, gentlemen, if I'm off base here, that I guess preliminary investigation as to the cost for rehabilitation continually with new parts and pieces to keep the treatment plant functional compared to building a new one, going ahead and was going to be essentially the same. Is that an accurate presentation?
If you look at life cycle cost, 50-year life cycle cost, the new plant with membranes was about 10% more than rehab plus.
And sadly, the rehab would have varying degrees of remaining life cycle. So therefore, that was the purpose for my motion, and that's kind of my position on the matter. I think that we've had this continual drip of delays, and as was reported by the nationwide engineering firm that builds these plants all over the world, all over the country, that each month of delay is costing the project and our customers, our residents, $1 million per month, which I believe is a formidable amount of money.
How is the $1 million calculated?
Because of the anticipated and actual inflation that has occurred on materials and the cost of construction.
Dollar estimate, so rough math. Now, I mean, that would get pared back a little because of course you're going to have interest on the bonds to do the replacement, but there's going to be a delta between that inflation rate and what your interest rate is.
So that's my comments and thoughts on the matter, and I just think that it's time to either fish or cut bait, and if we don't trust the numbers, if we don't trust the consultants, if we don't trust SJRA recommendation, let's get rid of all of them and start all over with a clean sheet of paper.
You have the alternatives already. And we don't have to start over. We just have to make a decision.
Well, this would be to award, again, correct me if I'm off base, award a contract to Freese and Nichols to begin design? No.
This would be the bond issue that would provide the funding for the design and engineering.
Okay.
Of the new.
And then you'd accept RFPs, RFQs, and so forth. Okay.
And the goal is to then the estimate for the new plant then to come into a much more predictable, not a high and a low in the middle, more to.
Detailed drawings, specifications to base your estimate on.
So this is what the new plant would cost us. And then we know what the rehab or upkeep on the old car, basically, to fix it, to keep it running, so that you could then compare the cost of the new plant to be a much better comparison.
Repair and replace.
No, that's pretty good, because, yeah, you know that. But what you're doing is you're taking the estimate for the new plant and you're doing a better prediction on what its cost is going to be.
As I recall, what was presented at the Almonds was the range was 230 and change to 288 and change, I think was the high and the low that.
It was different, wasn't it?
Yeah, 240, 250.
Yeah. I remember it was a big range.
There you go.
So we pretty much have to move forward on the estimate for the new in order to be able to compare them accurately. Basically, right?
Unless you knew you did not want to go forward with a new plant, then it would be a waste of money. The engineering plant that you aren't going to go forward on. Sure.
They need more than our vote. All the MUDs have to agree,
That's correct.
whether we disagree or not agree. And then we tighten up the plan because at one point they thought about UV disinfectant and versus chlorine.
That starts to get out of my, out of.
It's not legal, so.
I wish we could tell you that, but there was conversation with other meetings from all the directors who did to have further discussion about the decision point that was made during the stakeholder group to go with new technology as opposed to existing technology. That's about as far technical as I can get with you on that. And I think Chris did mention that that's something that could be done during the design and engineering processes.
Right. There's a couple of different new technologies, not just one.
Benefit that wasn't there. Decision.
Okay, sorry, got off topic, but
Not really.
but it costs money, so we have to decide that.
One other question. So let's say if we were to build a new plant, what's the estimated useful life of that plant?
Here we are, based on change.
That's what I was
You
asking.
said 50?
It'd be 50
And they're
broadly.
broadly, the basins, 50 pumps, 20 motors, 18 to 20 electrical gear, 20 to 30.
But at that point, 50 years from now, we would just rehab it. We wouldn't be building another plant somewhere. Mhm.
Other questions? It's a lot to process. So I don't want to rush this. It is a lot of money, yes, but as I said the other day, I don't particularly look forward to changing the tires on my car. I don't look forward to going and buying $150 oil change, but I know I have to have it in order to serve the needs of the community. Therefore, if
So we're
there's not-
supposed to vote on this?
Yes. I'll be
Okay.
happy to call the question. And that would end discussion, if that's okay with everybody. And we can either vote up or down, yes or no. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, motion passes. Thank you very much. All right, agenda item 15, we're finally there, Donna. Receive update regarding the Bear Branch, Panther Branch Research Forest Drive Drainage Improvement Project. Mr. Shackelford, good evening, good afternoon.
We've gotten our cost estimate from LPA Engineering, and we are reviewing it very closely because it is significantly more than what money is available in the budget. And so we will be back with you with some recommendations on what to do next.
So just let me reiterate or rehash, LJA's done their work. They've
done their work.
Okay,
They've delivered on schedule. We received it last Friday, and we're now going through the internal reviews of that cost estimate.
So the estimate came in higher than what was originally
The
forecasted.
grant allows.
Mm.
Do you know what the difference was? You do?
Yes, ma'am.
You're afraid to tell us?
I prefer not to because.
Okay.
Still under review.
Still under review.
Still under review.
Oh, okay.
But we do have the estimate. We have an estimate. Question is whether we accept that estimate. So no action needed, just an update.
okay, update. Thank you very much. It's rather startling information with the wrangling that we had done to get the project this far along to have this occurrence. Yes, here we are. We just have to figure it out, right? Okay, agenda item 16, receive the attorney's report. Mr. Yates?
Two items. One, we've already alluded to. The River Authority did get a very favorable result from the Texas Supreme Court. I think.
That's what I wondered.
Yeah, I think there's paper copies outside. We also have a copy on the studio drive.
Is that this one?
Yes.
Okay.
To kind of go back, this was a procedural case, but not actually on the merits, because the cities had claimed governmental immunity to suit on the contracts, and there are specific exceptions to that. And the court did find that there the governmental immunity was not applicable to this case, and therefore it could be litigated on the merits. So after all these years, it's now finally going back to trial court in Montgomery County, correct?
Yeah.
For lawsuit on the matters, so on merits.
So it's going to kick back to the lower court.
Correct.
Okay.
For merits that have never been litigated yet. So.
Well, that could be another 2 years.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
No, that's how legal works.
Yeah, I mean, now, maybe this moves the needle on.
Sounds like the voice of experience. Have you been through
Yes.
this?
Yeah. Maybe it moves the needle on settlement, but if it doesn't, and the two parties continue the current posture of litigation and appeal on, every item that potentially could be appealed, then yes, this could drag on for more years.
For 4 years?
For more
More
years.
years, okay.
It's a fool's errand to say how many. But right now, I think the amount in dispute, Chris, you said in the last meeting was around 25 million.
Right.
And then what, 4+ million is legal?
It says C money.
Hey, okay.
Legal?
Hey, legal at that.
Rounding error.
That's 4 to 8. It's a big rounding error.
Yeah.
When you look at all of the legal expenses associated with various cases.
So if you think the amounts that have just been refunded, but through the GRP for Quadvest, and the other party was about 14, and we're talking 25 plus, if the River Authority is ultimately successful, you're talking about roughly double the amount of what we got from Quadvest. If it's resolved favorably.
So we were resolved with Quadvest. We just haven't resolved with Conroe and.
Well, they're still appealing. They paid in with a short payment. They're still appealing the summary judgment that was in favor of the River Authority. So that lawsuit still chugs along as well.
So the summary judgment was that SJRA was going to win, and that didn't have to go to trial, because looking at the facts of the trial, the judgment was a summary.
Yeah.
And then that was appealed. The summary judgment was appealed. And pardon?
That's in Beaumont, the Court of Appeals in Beaumont,
For the district, for us.
not the Supreme Court. So whatever the resolution is at the Court of Appeals, the losing party could also petition the Supreme Court.
Kick back up to the Supreme Court based on merits, not on.
Well, on the decision on the summary judgment. So that one chugs on, but at least funds have been received to be able to do the distribution that's discussed on item 18.
Did they put that in escrow somehow?
I thought they.
You talking about Conroe?
Yeah, the monies that,
No, so
no, so it's just coming out of their operating budget, basically,
it's a
or,
liability on their books.
But they haven't been paying, so they've been
yeah.
really saving money.
Congress has frankly have been short paying the rate.
Okay, so
They're
they,
paying the 2016 rate.
They're paying something. Oh,
That's the-
I misunderstood.
Case of Quadvest and Woodland Oaks. What's still outstanding to be settled is penalties and interest and attorney.
Oh, gosh. Like a waste of money.
That, the number that you alluded to is on page, correct me again if I'm mistaken, it's on page 36. Past due receivable 60 days plus as of 2/29/24, 25,166,864. Is that accurate? That's the short.
Fees, interest, no legal fees.
Down there.
Oh, that tiny little
That
bullet.
tiny little
What
one,
you could barely read.
but at least it's there.
That's the
Total past
fine
due
print.
receivable.
Yeah, those
That's real.
pesky details. Yeah.
That's why you need a magnifying glass.
I can barely see with my glasses here. Okay.
Other than I've got on the attorney's report, you may have seen news reports last week that the EPA has adopted the final rule on regulation of, I think it's 6 different PFAS or forever chemicals. So implementation of that is supposed to go into effect in 27, enforcement in 29. I think there's been some initial testing of some, but maybe not all of the 6 that are going to be regulated by Woodlands Water as well as the River Authority. So far, it seems so good, but I don't know that all of the 6 regulated contaminants have been tested yet. And according to some news reports, I don't know where they're getting their backup, but some news reports have said that it could be $1.5 billion a year nationwide for implementation of testing and treatment
This is from the legislature.
from Congress. Yes.
Okay,
$1.5
federal.
billion a year for testing.
And treatment. Yep. So more to come on that. We're looking more into the rule and it just, came out last week. So more to come there. That's all I have on the attorney's report. Happy to answer questions. Little good news, little not good news.
A cheer there, yeah, good cheer. Thank you, Brian.
Yep.
Appreciate your guidance and direction. Okay, this brings us to agenda item 17, discuss the GRP surplus fund refund to the MUDs, page 43.
You have 17, which is an administrative item.
You're on 18, sorry,
Yeah, I'll cover that. real
Oh,
quick.
pardon me.
we're on 17.
Okay,
So our drought contingency plan and water conservation plan policy, we are required to review those and make any necessary updates on 5-year intervals. We're at that 5-year interval for May 1st of 24. Woodlands Water staff has been working with River Authority staff to make sure that those plans align, and they are getting those finished up now. So we are in a position to consider adoption of the resolution to adopt the plans effective as of May 1, 24.
We need to review
you have
this.
to approve it. We have to, requires action.
Oh, look,
Pages 41, 42.
back.
Last year, we were able to avert during our drought here. We didn't, you didn't have to execute the plan, right?
No, well, I mean, correct. We didn't have to go to the next trigger phase.
But we were close.
Yeah, we're fortunate. Well, I say we're fortunate. We've been very proactive in terms of water conservation in Woodlands versus most communities. And so what most communities and us have, as in you have a voluntary stage,
Correct.
and then you have enforcement stage 1, and then it gets more restrictive each time. So what we live with every day in the Woodlands with the odd even defined irrigation schedule is actually phase 1 mandatory. So I don't think we even hit our voluntary, but we would have had to have gone through voluntary, through stage 1 and up to stage 2 before it would have made a change in what we already do every day here. So, because irrigation is the biggest culprit, is the biggest user, the biggest source of water use during those drought months during the summertime. So by reducing the usage time periods for homes to just 2 days a week, that makes a big difference.
So it's not 2 days a week right now, but it will. Oh, it is.
It's always year round.
So what's different after May 1st?
Just that we have evidence that we have reviewed our plan and have adopted it for the next 5-year period. So I think there were some tweaks maybe in the trigger points.
There was some, no, the trigger points stayed the same, all the stages stayed the same. The only thing that updated was a lot of John's work. The AMI meters now have contributed to the water conservation plan. John's outreach, the weekly newsletter, public information, those things. That we're taking credit for that as assisting our water conservation.
The meters are the ones that communicate to the cell phone.
We didn't have those in 2019.
So you're more accurate in the usage, so you know what's going out.
It's assisted in water conservation, so we've
To
added
calculate.
we've added it to our water conservation efforts, which didn't exist the last time we updated it in 2019. So that's
So-
probably the biggest change.
Before then, it was just you have to send someone out to manually read the meters.
Right, right.
Mhm. And-
There's an
okay.
accuracy level too.
Yeah, the meters were less accurate, the meters were less reliable. They didn't pick up the low flows like the new ones do.
Wouldn't catch leaks as quickly.
Yeah.
So the new meters, they don't have to be read by a technician. They automatically upload the data.
There's a handful of them, also 98% of them read remotely.
Okay. I don't even know if I have a new meter or not.
You do.
I know I do.
I've signed up for Waterson.
It's the little Frisbee UFO looking thing on your water box.
Solar panel, isn't it? Mini solar panel? Yes. Well,
That's a little transmitter.
That's the trend.
And then within, you cited these, I'm sure you did GIS. You got them right. And you look up there and it's like a cell phone tower.
Yeah.
Within an equidistance for you to cite. I always thought about putting aluminum on it, see what that was.
Faraday tape?
Yeah, and then I'd probably get a visit from the sheriff.
Watersmart Edge.
Entertain a motion to approve the water conservation plan and drought contingency plan as submitted.
I said move.
Moved and
Seconded.
Second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain, motion passes. Thank you. Now we get to go
Yeah.
to the agenda item 18, discuss the GRP surplus refund to the MUDs, which is shown on page 43.
Yes, page 43.
Uh-huh.
Just to summarize, what has been approved by the GRP committee and then subsequently the SRA Board of Directors was to utilize some of the surplus from the drought and from Quadvest and others. Those surpluses would be utilized, about 14 million, to buy down debt. That would equate to roughly 3-cent reduction in the wholesale water rates. So that's one piece of it. Another 12 million of the surplus would be credited back to the GRP participants. That's what's on page 43 as it pertains to the Woodlands MUDs. The pro rata splits of that. MUD 60 would be approximately 340,000, probably 339 and change. Would be your share. We're going to be processing the credit memos on each of the MUD's financials for next month for April. So you'll see that as a credit come into your accounts.
And that would go into general fund, or would it be a discretionary? Could we utilize operating general fund, which would allow the board discretion to contribute to the financing of projects or potentially?
Ideally, I'd look at what it does to your reserves. As we spoke at tech setting time last year, that's something that we need to keep a close eye on, make sure that we're in a good position with aging infrastructure, but it's only going to help. So
Good.
Look at that.
Good news. Very good. Thank you. And that's been approved by the SJRA GRP.
Like I said, we've already received what's called the credit memos from SJRA, which documents that procedure and those amounts. So we are processing those.
Thank you very much. You're on a roll, General Manager Peterson. You can move right into agenda item 19 for the General Manager's report. Pages
Okay.
44 through 48.
It's good afternoon. Wanted to give you an update on the One Water Task Force. One Water, you might have seen in the news last week in a couple different sources, some articles on the recreation of One Water as the township approved the moving forward. Just to give you an update, we will be working with the township representatives to have our first kickoff meeting here, hopefully in the next week or so. And then more to come. So no update other than that at the moment, but we'll have our first meeting here coming soon. Great. Wanted to point out in your packets, there's a customer thank you. We try to include those when we get them. We get probably several a month. So I always like to share those. Also in your packet is the township provided a proclamation on May 27th for Bruce Cunningham Day. So I thought that was very nice that they did that. Wanted to update you on some of the building improvements. We finished the redo of the roof a couple of weeks ago. And then last week's storm, we suffered a little bit of flood damage unrelated to the roof, but related to the balcony up here. That's really what's causing a lot of our issues here. So it's something that was not necessarily a budgeted item, but we're gonna have to deal with it and address it. So we're working on that. Also, what you'll start seeing around the building is some improved or updated maps. Here's the first version
Yeah,
of it.
look at that.
That's really a good map.
It is. And believe it or not, it's cheaper than the old map
It looks
to
better.
make. It's actually very affordable.
We're yellow. This
Looks a lot
instead
better.
of purple.
That's actually a dry erase, so we could draw on that if we needed to during meetings. So
Oh,
we'll probably look at having a couple more made and putting them in different areas for staff to utilize and the community utilize as well as we make some adjustments and improvements to the general public areas of the building. So moving along on those, and then with that, I wanted to kick it to John for a quick comment report.
Afternoon, you got communications report there on page 49 of the packet. I just want to quickly highlight a couple items in there. As you know, we've been messaging on the election, so we sent the stuff to your left water bill. We've had some social media go out, and then we've updated the website. So all the information that we're putting out is just very straightforward when and where information. The website is those are files that we've been directed to post by council. We do have a sample ballot that is snipped right from the county election website, and then we push to the county election website for other information. So that's what's up there. Outreach calendar. So we've been out in the community a bit. You'll see that on page 51, and then Eric has a couple more opportunities coming up here. So we're getting out more and more in person as well as virtually. And then finally, Holloway, just a quick update there. So the River Authorities Board will vote hopefully and approve the phase 3 and 4 of the infrastructure communications campaign with Holloway consultant. If that is approved at the end of this month, then we will begin implementation of the strategic plan right around the beginning of May. Any questions?
I have none.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. I have one question, General Manager Peterson. On page 45, drainage structure failure. In the second paragraph, it says this drainage structure. I'm not sure it was ever referenced what drainage structure failed. If it is, forgive me for asking, but I didn't, I'd just like to know which it is because we are responsible for 10% of this cost.
Yes, this came up about a year ago, and it's right there in the corner, southwest corner of Mud 7. And you see that little bit of yellow.
yeah, I see that.
What? Yes.
It's a gated community.
Yeah, that little bit of yellow is your 10%, and essentially coming right off the tip of 7, going into the channel. There's a side channel that takes water from the little piece of yours and 7 and brings it into the larger channel. There was a drop structure there that failed. We reported on it probably
I remember the
April
photo
last year.
Yeah.
So the next step was we had to put it in the budget, which we did last year, and then get the engineering rolling on it. And so we're currently in the middle of that right now. So it's that old item that's being engineered.
Very good. Thank you for that clarification.
And it was in the approved budget for 2023, 2024. So it's in the budget.
Further discussion, questions, anybody? We can then move on to, again, General Manager Peterson, agenda item 20. The trustees report?
Yes, was a long meeting. We, I think, the main action that was taken by the trustees was to authorize James Nichols to complete a first step of a net present value evaluation of some of those wastewater treatment plant alternatives, as if you were going to go down the band-aiding route and address all of the itemized things that were in the presentation last month, getting to a kind of a tipping point of net present value as to whether or not it made sense to continue to further evaluate the costs of all those individual items versus continuing on the path. So that was the estimated, I think, $50,000 that was authorized to have Freese Nichols complete that first step. So that was, I think, the main action. That was,
50 or 155?
it was 50, was the first stage.
Oh, first stage, okay.
There was a discussion that it might be 150 to do the whole thing, but I think they suggested that they could get to at least the next talking point for about 50.
So that was going to be presented next month. Is that accurate?
That was the estimate. Yes. Yes. They believed that they could accomplish that. And I say they, Freese Nichols.
Very good.
I think we've covered the rest of the items from there.
Questions regarding GM report? Donna?
No, not a moment.
That moment to review.
It's fine. Um, okay. It talked about the excess funds distributing back to the MUDs, and the wholesale water rate would increase. I thought they said they would decrease a minute ago. That was something else,
Decrease. The GRP rate?
a GRP rate.
Yeah. No, this is a different topic.
what-
This is a different topic.
What
Yes,
you're
ma'am.
noting, there were, I think Ed's presented that if those funds that were voted on the previous month be utilized for those various things, there were 5 different things.
Hmm.
If those were put back into the MUDs, refunded all of that, those dollars, I think it was $5.1 million. If it were to be refunded back to the MUDs and then put into the those same items put back into the budget for next year, the estimate were those numbers, that your wholesale rates would go up by those amounts.
By the 60 cents or
So
whatever.
instead of using the cash on hand from the excess, the idea was you keep those, but then your rates have to go up. Or would go up
Mhm.
potentially.
There
That was the question.
There was confusion about that at the Board of Trustees meeting. as
Yes,
well.
I'm
It required a
just trying to catch
good deal
up
of
here.
discussion. It's,
Yeah.
you're doing a great job.
It's like.
Yeah. Good catch too.
Mhm. Okay, okay.
Okay. Further questions regarding the GM report, Donna?
No, I didn't sign up for the spring seminar yet. It's probably too late.
Oh, that is on the list. Go back to that. Did want to point out, early bird is past us, but you can still sign up. It's this Thursday. It's on the west side of Houston. There's a handful of directors going. Myself and Shelley will be going as well. Mike Turco is the presenter from Harris County Science District, so should be a good presentation on subsidence.
Oh, it's subsidence, okay.
Will they make the presentation available?
They have in the last few years, so I would expect that to be the case.
So they upload the slides and then we can get a copy because I won't be able to go. I'm really interested. I got the same flyer that you
Mhm.
showed there. Looks like it's gonna be a good talk. Now they're the Harris Galveston Subsidence District, right?
But some of their information does pick up southern Montgomery County.
Okay, certainly it affects us.
Mhm.
It's contiguous. It's the whole region. They're also meeting, there's Houston Geologic Society is having a presentation that I got a notice on, something very similar to one of their researchers is presenting something on that. And I tried to get a copy of it, then I found out that my membership had expired. So I'm in the process of rejoining that so I can get a copy of that. I was hoping to bring it to this meeting. It was like, what? It's expired?
Mhm.
So I'm working on it. When I get a copy, I'll.
That sounds intriguing.
Yeah, it's, they've got some researchers, that are looking at the, mitigation of subsidence and causation, and it's pretty good. I'll try to get it for the next meeting I can attend. I'll bring it.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Anything else, Don?
No.
Thank you. We can move on to the recess. We no need to recess. Therefore, no need to reconvene. Agenda item 23, discuss matters for placement on future agenda. What I would like to propose is that this board, due to the absence and being out of the country of Director Walker, he'll be away, that we defer the election of officers, because as we all know, there's going to be an election and a new board.
You mean an induction?
No, the elected officials will be, elected candidates will be sworn in
Right, normally at the May meeting.
at the May meeting. And, but I thought personally, out of respect for Dale, who served 2 years, great contributions, great participation, that we defer the election of officers until he's able to return and we have a full board.
Like in June.
I'm
You
hopeful
hope
of
you'll be
June.
here in June?
As they say about high water and all that, you know.
Do not go anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
I have family coming in, but I was still gonna come to the mud meeting,
Yeah.
hopefully.
Yeah. It's a very,
I appreciate that.
potentially, changing of officers is nothing to be taken inconsequentially, because the people will have spoken and the board members will speak as to who they want to be in their positions. So out of respect for Dale, I suggest that we defer that until June, at least June, hopefully not later than that.
So do the new elected members come to the May
Oh,
meeting?
yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And tell them we're not,
They will be, yeah.
They'll be directors without an officer position.
okay, so they'll attend the meeting and be part of the meeting, but we'll just say we're deferring the election of officers, okay?
The present vice president. Actual.
Until everybody's here.
These are all the.
Yeah, all of the above. So,
Everybody.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
anything else?
I'm like winner. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mhm.
If there's no further business to be conducted, I adjourn this meeting. Thank you very much.